Au printemps 1981, le producteur Steven Spielberg s'apprêtait à tourner son film Poltergeist. Il avait son scénario, son réalisateur et la plupart de ses acteurs. Mais il n'avait pas encore trouvé l'enfant qui jouerait la cible innocente du fantôme. Ce film était une idée de Steven Spielberg. En 1982, le réalisateur de 35 ans était déjà un grand nom d'Hollywood. Il avait à son actif des succès tels que Les Dents de la Mer et Rencontre du troisième type. Spielberg était fasciné par tout ce qui fait peur. Enfant, dans la banlieue de Scottsdale, en Arizona, Steven s'amusait à terroriser ses 3 petites sœurs.
It seems like Steven's always been trying to scare us. It started probably, I can recall, when I was about in 2nd grade. My little sister and I were sharing a room, and I had a new blackboard, and he came in and drew a skull face with big scary eyes and bloodshot eyes in chalk on my blackboard. And he said, "Which one of you can sleep with this image without telling Mom?" And so this thing's staring at us, and the two of us, neither one of us wanted to chicken out, and finally we both said, "Go!" And we ran out of bed and got my mom, and she erased it.
En grandissant, ses plaisanteries devinrent plus diaboliques.
He used to do some pretty incredible things, such as he created a monster out of an old skull he had, and he dripped red wax over it and put weird flashlights and gels shining on it. And then he threw us one at a time in the closet, making us wear special sunglasses to help the effect. And then he locked the closet door and wait for our screams.
Spielberg a pris une leçon primordiale. Ses victimes adoraient avoir peur.
We'd sit in our rooms going, what's he going to do now? And part of us just couldn't wait, like, oh, there's something fun's going to happen. But at the same time, as a kid, I had butterflies.
Steven Spielberg ne tarda pas à allier son goût pour l'horreur et sa passion pour le cinéma.
Oh, he's always filming everything. He would take my Barbie dolls and he'd put on music from Spartacus, and he'd walk, like the Death March, he'd walk Barbie up to the scaffold and film her hanging, So he did very macabre things with our toys, but we all thought this was normal. Growing up, we all thought everybody did this in their houses. I guess that wasn't the case.
Au printemps 1980, Spielberg réalisait son prochain film, Les Aventuriers de l'Arche perdue. Cet été-là, il devint obsédé par l'idée d'un film sur une maison hantée. Écoutez notre critique de film en ligne, Andy Jones.
Playing the film in a suburban location sort of intensifies the scare factor, because you know what, most horror movies and scary haunted house movies, they're set like, in spooky castles you shouldn't be going into anyway. Don't go in that building. These are the buildings that you want to stay away from. But a neighborhood like in the suburbs where every building is beige and the kids all look the same, and everyone goes to the same PTA meeting and the high school's right down the block, that's not the place where you expect to find, ghosts and scary things. You feel very safe in these communities. And I think that's exactly where Spielberg kind of got us.
Tout en finissant Les Aventuriers de l'Arche perdue, il mit au point les grandes lignes de Poltergeist, l'histoire d'une famille ordinaire terrorisée par des fantômes. Spielberg et le producteur d'Indiana Jones, Frank Marshall, firent part de leur projet à MGM, qui l'acheta immédiatement. Il y avait cependant un problème. Spielberg s'était engagé à la réalisation d'un autre film.
When Spielberg signed on for Poltergeist with MGM, he was already under contract with Universal on E.T., which sort of forbade him to direct another movie, specifically Poltergeist. Obviously, Universal didn't want to have these two movies competing.
Spielberg n'était pas ravi, mais il trouva une solution. Son accord avec Universal ne l'empêchait pas de produire Poltergeist. Des réalisateurs de renom se précipitèrent sur le projet. Spielberg choisit Tobe Hooper, âgé de 37 ans, dont le film choc Massacre à la tronçonneuse, réalisé à petit budget en 1974, était considéré comme un film d'horreur culte. Spielberg avait son réalisateur, mais il fallait un scénario. En 1980, Steven rencontra 2 scénaristes pleins d'avenir, Mark Victor et Michael Grace. Le réalisateur avait pensé à ce duo pour un autre projet.
We were at his house and he was showing us a guy named Joe, which later became a movie, and wanted to know if we wanted to write that. And then we were talking about ghost stories, I think, during the night and Twilight Zones.
Lorsque Spielberg révéla qu'il travaillait sur son propre film de fantômes, les scénaristes voulurent en faire partie.
Steven had some notes for an idea. When Michael and I walked outside, we both kind of looked at each other and said, I'd rather do the ghost story. So we called Steven and said, hey, you know, that ghost story, we'd rather do the ghost story.
We didn't know that calling Stephen and telling him that we didn't want to do one movie and we wanted to do a different one was not something that most people don't usually do. We hadn't been in the business that long.
Mais Spielberg aimait leur dynamisme. Grace et Victor décrochèrent le boulot. Le réalisateur exigeait du réalisme.
And Stephen had us meeting with psychics and ghost hunters and all kinds of the most bizarre people we'd ever imagined. There was some guy up in the hills who we met with who supposedly could see ghosts, and we were wandering around some old mansion, and he goes, "See, there's one there." We'd look up, and you know, there would be nothing there. You know, we go, "Oh yeah."
En quête d'inspiration, Spielberg et ses scénaristes se replongèrent dans les peurs de leur enfance.
Everything that scared us as kids, you know, nightmares, fantasies, dreams, whatever, and we all contributed stories about, you know, the usual things kids are afraid of, you know, the dark closet, the what's under the bed.
Stephen was afraid of a lot of things, and he was really, really frightened of clowns, and not only clowns, but trees. Stephen was very much afraid of a tree, a particular tree that grew in our backyard, and this tree, when it would storm or there'd be wind, would scratch on his window, and he was just deathly afraid of this tree. And in Poltergeist, there's an incredible image of the tree coming and grabbing the little boy, and it's, I mean, when I saw that, I just went, oh my gosh, he captured the fear that he had and really put it into the film.
Mais les scénaristes voulaient aller bien au-delà des clowns et des arbres effrayants.
We had a lunch with Stephen, and we sat him down, we said, "Stephen, in order for this to really have impact
And be different.
A lot of people have to die." He goes, "How many?" We said, "The whole family."
We said, we want to kill the whole family. And he stopped and he said, at the end of the meeting, it was a nice compromise, he said, "Only one." And we looked at each other and went, "The little girl." Obviously, it was the beginning of the process.
Victor et Grace décidèrent finalement de ne pas faire mourir la petite fille. Ils terminèrent l'écriture du scénario à l'automne 1980. Spielberg et son réalisateur Toby Hooper se mirent à la recherche de visages inspirant la confiance. Monsieur et Madame Tout-le-Monde, en quelque sorte. La première sur la liste fut Jobeth Williams, 32 ans, plus connue pour son rôle dans Kramer contre Kramer, qui avait remporté un Oscar en 1979.
My agent called me and said, "We're sending you a script called Poltergeist." And I went, "Oh, you know, a horror movie? No, I'm not interested," in my snobby little way. And then they said, "Well, Steven Spielberg is producing this." And I went, "Oh, well, then I guess I'll read it."
L'actrice a adoré le scénario et accepta le rôle d'une ménagère terrorisée par des fantômes. Williams était déjà une adepte du surnaturel.
I was doing summer stock in New Hampshire, and a bunch of the actors were living in this boarding house. And I had a dream, or what I thought was a dream one night, that the bed was shaking. And I thought, well, maybe we're having an earthquake. And I woke up in the morning and I went down to breakfast, and the lady who owned the house, you know, serving breakfast, and I said, "Wow, I had the weirdest dream. I thought we were having an earthquake because the bed was shaking." She said, "Oh, no, dear, that's just our ghost." And I went, "Ghost?" She said, "Oh, yes, it's been here for years, nothing to worry about."
Pour jouer le rôle de son mari, Jobeth pensa à l'acteur de 35 ans, Craig T. Nelson.
Jobeth and I had worked in Stir Crazy, and then she got a part in the Poltergeist, first one, and she, I think, suggested me to Steven Spielberg. Then I came in and read for it and auditioned for it and got it.
Pour jouer le rôle de l'exorciste mystérieux, Spielberg cherchait quelqu'un de moins conventionnel. Zelda Rubinstein, 45 ans, passe à l'audition. Tout comme Jobeth Williams, elle avait eu une expérience surnaturelle.
I had been living in London for a very long time, and one night I was having a dream, like a little cartoon image of my dog back in California, and said, "I have to go now, I'm so tired." But I had to say goodbye, and he went out the right side of my vision, and I woke up immediately screaming because I knew my dog had died. And in just a couple hours, My mother called from California to say the dog had died, very mysteriously.
Rubinstein était celle qu'il cherchait. Elle obtint le rôle. Dominique Dune, 21 ans, et Oliver Robbins, 7 ans, signèrent pour les rôles des deux enfants de la famille. Mais Spielberg et Hooper n'avaient toujours pas trouvé leur Carole Anne, la cadette de la famille et victime préférée du poltergeist. Le film promettait d'être un énorme succès, mais les cinéastes étaient loin de se douter qu'ils allaient au-devant de surprises monstrueuses. Au printemps 1981, le producteur Steven Spielberg était prêt à tourner le film Poltergeist. Il avait son scénario, son réalisateur et la plupart de ses acteurs. Mais il n'avait toujours pas trouvé l'enfant qui tiendrait le rôle de l'innocente victime des fantômes. Spielberg chercha désespérément sa Carole Anne. Parmi les actrices potentielles figurait la petite Drew Barrymore, 6 ans.
I remember that so vividly. I met with Stephen. I originally went in for Poltergeist, actually. And he took one look at me and said, "You're wrong for that movie." And I was sort of like, oh, God, I'm in the wrong place. And he was like, "But I think you're right for this other movie."
Ce film n'était autre qu'E.T. Spielberg continuait de chercher la petite fille idéale pour Poltergeist et la trouva dans un endroit improbable. L'agent Bob Preston représentait Heather O'Rourke, âgée de 5 ans.
Heather's older sister, Tammy, was working on a feature film at the MGM lot called Pennies from Heaven. In the MGM commissary, Kathy O'Rourke, Heather's mother, asked Heather to sit down and save the seats for them. So while Heather is sitting there by herself, the stranger came up, glasses, beard, sort of long hair, and said, "Hi, what's your name?" And she said, "Well, my name is Heather O'Rourke, but you're a stranger and I can't talk to you." And he said, "Well, do you mind if I sit here until your mother comes back?" And she said, "Well, she didn't say anything about that, but yes, you can sit down until she comes, but that's her seat." Okay, fine. So this man sat down, talked to Heather while they're waiting for the food to come. Sure enough, Mom comes back with a tray full of food and the sister. The man gets up and said, "I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Steven Spielberg." At that point, Mom drops the tray on the table, everything spills.
Stephen asked how old she was. She said, "Well, I'm 5. He said, "Well, I need someone that's 6. She said, "Okay," just proceed to eat her sandwich. And then a day or so later, he came up and says, in the commissary again, he said, "How are you again, Heather?" Next thing we know, we were given a card to be interviewed.
They met with Heather by herself, and Mr. Spielberg said, "Would you mind taking the script outside and have your mom sort of read the lines to you, and hopefully you can memorize it?" And Heather said, "I can read." And he goes, "Well, sure," and just sort of joking along with her. She goes, "No, really." And she picked up the script and started reading it.
They related back and forth, and she screamed and cried and followed his directions. She said, "Could you go home now she was done screaming?" He said, "You sure could." And next thing we know, she had the job.
Le tournage commença en mai 1981 à Simi Valley, en Californie, une banlieue tranquille à 65 km au nord de Los Angeles. Personne ne pensait qu'il y aurait de gros problèmes, mais dès le début, ce fut éreintant. L'acteur James Karen témoigne.
It was a very hot day, a new crew, and it was a rough day's shoot for a first day. It would be rough for any day.
Même les voisins étaient épuisés. Georges Rakowski habitait en face de la maison de Poltergeist.
The main complaint of most of the neighbors was that the shooting was going on at 3 o'clock in the morning, and there were explosions and noises and sounds, and you couldn't sleep, and lights were blurring, and it was a distraction.
Les choses ne se sont pas arrangées pour Spielberg et sa troupe lorsqu'ils ont déménagé sur un plateau de la MGM. Pendant l'été 1981, la corporation des scénaristes se mit en grève. Mark Victor et Michael Grace suivirent le mouvement.
We were ordered by our guild to be picketing while the movie was shooting inside. It was a very strange situation for us.
We were outside of MGM picketing our movie that was being shot inside Poltergeist, and someone came out and found us, said, "Come on, we'll sneak you in the back door." So they came out and got us and brought us in the back door so that we could go to the set and spend a few hours on the set and see what was going on. And we were escorted back out to the picket line and continued our protest.
Steven Spielberg était présent tous les jours sur le tournage, mais il ne pouvait pas se consacrer uniquement à Poltergeist.
He was also making E.T. and getting ready to do E.T. It was in pre-production, and I can remember him talking about it and how maybe it was going to be a pretty big film, something he was excited about.
En dépit du chaos, les acteurs ne semblaient pas affectés, du moins pour le moment.
Oh, Dominique was just a delightful young woman. I mean, Dominique was 21, I think, playing 16, full of life, full of energy. You know, a lot of jokes about her playing a teenager when she was really a young woman.
Ollie. He was so tiny. I mean, he's just a little guy, you know, and he was fun. He was pro and ready to go to work.
Contrairement à son personnage, la petite Heather n'était pas perturbée par l'histoire sinistre du film.
I cried in the scene, she would cry. If I seemed scared in the scene, she would totally take her cue off me and she would become scared. To the point where I began to get worried, and I said, you know, Heather, I'm just acting. She said, I know, so am I. I went, oh, okay, I'll just back off.
Pour les enfants, c'était marrant. Il n'y avait qu'à faire semblant. Mais pour Jobes Williams et Craig T. Nelson, c'était une autre histoire.
It was physically very hard. Just a lot of running and screaming and dirt being thrown at us and skeletons being thrown at us. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can take months of this.
You just seemed like you were consistently wet and cold all the time. That's what I remember, is being difficult. Or covered in gel, which was the afterbirth of something.
Whatever it was, it had a lot of alcohol in it, and so it made your body very cold. And, you know, little Heather and I had to be covered in this for long hours while we were shooting in the bathtub. It was pretty uncomfortable.
Mais pas aussi inconfortable qu'un des décors sophistiqués du film, une chambre tournante.
I was really scared about getting on that ride because I'd never done anything like, I mean, few people have done anything like that. And, you know, the way it worked was that the cameraman was strapped, he and the camera were strapped to the set so that they rotated. And basically, I stayed in place, but I had to slide with the set. And we did it over and over and over again. And the people who had built the set had so faithfully recreated the bedroom set that they had even recreated the cottage cheese ceiling, which scraped and scratched me every time I went around. So after about the 20th take, I had sort of scrapes and some blood on my elbows and my knees, which were exposed because of what I was wearing. And I remember I got off and I said, you know, Stephen, I'm bleeding. And he said, it's okay, we can wipe it away, it'll never show. And I said, well, I really appreciate your sympathy.
Tandis que la vie sur le tournage devenait de plus en plus difficile, la vie à la maison devenait de plus en plus étrange.
Dominique had a weird experience while she was making the movie. You know, soon after the production started on the film, she was staying in the house. A bookshelf falls over, throws books all over the room that was bolted into the wall.
I was living in an apartment in LA because I was from New York. And I would come home every evening, and the pictures in the apartment would be crooked. And I would straighten them, and I would go to bed, and I'd get up really early and go to work the next day. And I'd come home late at night after a long, exhausting day, and the pictures would be crooked again. And I began to get very creeped out about this. I began to think, is somebody trying to send me a message that I shouldn't be doing this film, you know, that there's something wrong with me dealing with this subject?